I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Welcome to the Saturday Morning Community Broadcast. Each and every week we try to inspire, engage, and encourage you and fill you with information about what's happening in the movement, what's happening in the nation, giving you a civil rights, human rights analysis of the ongoing issues we face each and every day. Today we dedicate this broadcast to one of our longtime activists, the founder of the African American Patrolmen's League, Buzz Palmer, really a great guy here in Chicago. We're praying for his family, and certainly we're praying for his wife, Alice Palmer. We also want to dedicate the broadcast to the memory of Daunte Wright, a young man innocently murdered on the streets of Minneapolis in the midst of the Derek Chauvin trial for police misconduct. And now I want to just give you the highlights of what you will hear and see today on this broadcast. Every week we want to update you on our National Housing Initiative. Bishop Tavis Grant will talk about how this housing initiative we have at Concordia Place in Chicago is being developed as a model. And Reverend Jackson calls it the Model Cities Model Part 2. Many of you remember Model Cities. That was a program launched by HUD many, many years ago. We want to reclaim the idea that every housing development should be a model city within a city. People should have access to all of the resources that we see in more affluent communities: transportation, good housing, great schools, and access to groceries and all of the things that people need, recreational facilities, all of that. And that's what we want to do at Concordia Place. And you'll hear more details about our progress from Bishop Tavis Grant. I want to talk about dedicating this broadcast really in the memory of one of our founders, Jackie Robinson. It's Jackie Robinson Day all over baseball, everywhere in America. And we're going to hear some highlights on our Jackie Robinson initiative.
Jackie Robinson leads off for Brooklyn. Jackie Robinson leads off.
Jackie Robinson singles for center.
Smashes the double to left field.
And the heavy-hitting second baseman responded by racing a tremendous triple to right center.
Every game has its heroes. One of them certainly was Robinson.
The Brooklyn fans go wild.
He dances back and forth.
Robinson dashes to the plate.
Jackie Robinson set his sights and set a stretching home run. And the men from Abbott Field climbed from the depths of defeat to the heights of victory.
People who are a little different from the majority in their skin color, or the way they worship their God, or the way they spell their name.
And I think the conscience of America is beginning to awaken. The only thing that we're demanding is that we be allowed to move ahead just like any other American citizen.
At the height of this country's era of segregation, we have a symbol of perseverance through immense, unnecessary hatred. Our color barrier breaking second baseman, Jackie Roosevelt Robinson. Imagine being the recipient of deep hate that he faced from the fans, the media, opposition, and even his teammates. The offensive racial slurs he heard every time he reached base, but he was able to ignore it and handled it all with elite grace. For Pete's sake, move forward, never looking in the rear. First season playing, he won Rookie of the Year, then an All-Star, MVP, and a World Series champ. A big shout out to Branch Rickey for taking a chance that was that risky. Athlete, philanthropist, husband, and a father too. Whether in pinstripes, cardinal red, or Dodger blue, all wearing the number 42 just to honor you. Every April 15th, we pay homage with all the paintings, all the murals, all the monuments to a symbol of black dominance and black prominence. We salute you, Jackie Roosevelt Robinson.
We here at Push Excel are shaking things up and doing things a little bit different. We realize that you are interested in getting into HBCUs, attending them, excelling, and paying for them. However, we want to equip you with the resources to do so. So, starting April 24th, we are going to be bringing you a market research study with this book here, Raise Your GPA, God's Way to Win at School and Life. We'll be working with Jonathan Banks, and he will be bringing this information to not only you and your families and your students, because he realizes that students do not get 4.0s, families get 4.0s, and he is going to help us excel at that. So after that, we are also going to be bringing you more programs every Saturday for you to excel with the process of attending the HBCUs that you want to attend. All of your organizations, we invite you to join us. Call here at Rainbow Push, Push Excel, so that we can have you join us with this process. Help your students excel. We want you on the bus with us to success.
We also have a lot of labor unrest in America. There's a fight for 15. There are many challenges that labor has been facing in the last several years, so we're going to hear from the American Transit Union, American Federation of Teachers, and we're going to get an interesting update on Amazon. We know that the vote to unionize Amazon in Alabama did not happen. We're going to hear from a young man who's really leading a movement to organize the Amazon workers and workers like Amazon workers who work every day. Some may make $15 an hour, but they don't have benefits. They don't have the kind of protections that labor unions provide. Today we're pleased to have Chris Smalls with us. He's one of the leading organizers among workers at the Amazon facilities across the nation who are attempting to organize. And so Chris, we met you before Christmas, as a matter of fact. For those who have not met you, can you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing as a former Amazon employee and what you're doing now?
Former Amazon employee, now founder of my organization, TCOEW, the Congress of Essential Workers. So last year, after I was fired, I founded this organization and have been traveling the country ever since, protesting in front of Jeff Bezos' mansions, his many mansions across the country, bringing out a lot of Amazon workers to tell their stories, uplift their voices. We started off in New York City at his $80 million mansion. Then we traveled down to Washington, D.C. to his $28 million mansion. And then we went out west to his $165 million mansion in Beverly Hills. Then we went to his first mansion in Medina, Seattle, and also the Amazon headquarters in Seattle, Washington as well. Our latest travels was about a month ago. We were in Alabama and Bessemer, standing in solidarity with those workers down there that are trying to unionize, and also standing in solidarity with the union leaders, the union reps that have been organizing the workers to unionize for the first time in American history. This last year, pretty much, once again, just trying to build as much support as possible. My goal is to try to get, any facility unionized, but definitely want to start in New York as well at my former facility. So my journey continues.
Tell us a little bit about why you feel it's important that Amazon workers become unionized. What are some of the issues you face as an employee of Amazon, and what are employees facing now that will cause them to want to organize, and what union is organizing them?
I worked at Amazon since 2015. I opened up 3 buildings for them. I got promoted in my first year. So I was a supervisor or an assistant manager for the last 4 years at Amazon. And what I did notice that the systemic racism that exists, I applied for a promotion about 49 times and I was denied every last one of them for no apparent reason. I was a good employee, came to work every day. I took all the courses, the classes, passed them with flying colors. I did everything I could to get promoted, and I never understood why until after I was terminated. But when it came to health and safety concerns, Amazon disregarded that when COVID-19 came into play. That really was the tipping point for me to take my stance. When coronavirus came into play, that's when I realized that this company is neglecting us workers because they want to keep business as usual. And obviously, Jeff Bezos accumulated $90 billion in the midst of the pandemic. That told me right there that they had to exploit a class of people. My action against them now is to try to stop that systemically, whether it's be through their elected officials, implementing some laws that protect workers, or unionizing on the outside from within or from the outside as well. We're trying to organize workers to have the courage to start their own workplace committee, or like the workers in Alabama, find a union that represents them the best, like the RWDSU. The beauty of working at Amazon, you have the option to choose which union represents your building, no matter where you are in the country. So it doesn't have to be the same union. Whatever union is doing the best work in your community is the one you want to probably choose to organize your building.
So what would you say to people that are watching this broadcast, workers or people that know workers at Amazon and other places like Amazon? What would you recommend they do right now if they're not a union?
I want to say the reason why, we need a union at Amazon is because, Amazon exploited us throughout the course of the pandemic. And not only that, their labor, the type of labor that you're subjected to. You heard the rumors about, Amazon workers peeing in bottles, and you heard about the working conditions. It's actually a dangerous place to work. It's one of the 12th, I think it's ranked 12th as the most dangerous company to work for, because there's a lot of injuries, high risk of injuries. And COVID-19 makes it even worse when you're still working on these packed assembly lines and you're next to somebody that possibly could have tested positive. So all these things play a factor of why you want to have a union that protects you. So if you're speaking up on these concerns, the company can't at will fire you or at will retaliate against you like they did me and several other people that have been speaking out against them. You want to have somebody that represents you and your coworkers, that can go and sit with management, negotiate a contract that benefits you more so than the company, so that you can get a decent living wage, so you can get Medicare, so you can get child care, so you can get health care, so you can get a pension. And also you can get the PPE that should have been provided since day one. So these things are what Amazon failed to do last year and what they're scrambling to do now. And I think that the union can already provide that if they're ready and willing. If you know somebody, tell them to take action. Take action, get involved with an organization in your local community. You can absolutely reach out to me. I can support you on Twitter at shut_down Amazon. No surprise there. On Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TCOEW, the Congress of Essential Workers, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also, we have a podcast. It's called It's a Smalls World, ISSA Smalls World. It's on YouTube. It's free. We have new episodes every weekend. We have great guests that come on every week and get interviewed. We just had Sarah Nelson on last week. So you can follow us on there. Just reach out to me any way, shape, or form.
This is our labor segment for our broadcast, and I am so excited. We have one of the leading women in organized labor, Miss Deborah Lane, and she is Secretary Treasurer. She's the organizer. She's everything for the Amalgamated Transit Workers Union. She's traveled all over the world representing the union, and today we just want to have a conversation with Deborah Lane, could share with us some of the concerns transit workers have in today's pandemic. How has it impacted your workers?
As Dr. Wilson stated, I am the Financial Secretary, Treasurer, Organizer, and Lobbyist for Amalgamated Transit Union Local 308. We represent the rail personnel for the Chicago Transit Authority. During this pandemic, which was really a test and a testimony to all working class Americans, but for our transit workers, we have been tested and tried throughout this pandemic. But had we not been proactive with the 411, then our members wouldn't have been prepared for the 911, which was the pandemic. So we prepared them in understanding that no matter what, our job and our duties and responsibilities is to provide services to the Chicagoland area and abroad.
What kind of adjustments did you have to make as a result of COVID-19 in your protocols and your processes?
Well, we had to break down that barrier of 308, the union and the company, and we all had to come to the realization at this time we have to become one. So what we had to change inside of the system itself was making our union members, which are the employees, feel comfortable in the workplace, because hearing people passing away from this pandemic, and then the amount of people that we transport from end to end on a daily basis only brought panic to our members. You know what I'm saying? So we had to make sure, no one was prepared for this, but we had to make sure that we roped off areas. You know, we provided PPE, we provided a comfortable service for them. And we're so grateful during this time of the pandemic that Operation Push stepped in to assist us on some of these things that we needed, because we definitely were not prepared either on the CTA side or union side. But we really want to thank Governor Pritzker, Mayor Lightfoot, and our presidents of our unions for working together to make sure that our members did not get laid off during the pandemic. Because in a good sense, we still needed transit to be rolling even for emergency purposes. Although we were not labeled as frontline workers, the things that we deal with on a day-to-day puts us in that frontline perspective in moving transit to make sure that even grandma or whoever needed to be transported to the hospital but didn't want to go in an ambulance still had transit moving to take them where they needed to be.
What can people do to be supportive of the transit workers? What if you had three things, what would you ask us to do?
If I had three things, we still need to push for more transit funding. And we understand the capital side of it, you know, because we want to keep the infrastructure going. But then there are also wages. You know, we have disparity in wages on our property. We want to put that. And that's a whole nother different segment. And then we just want, which is really the top, we just want respect when our customers are riding our service. You know what I'm saying? Just to say that, you know, I've been here 30 years. In the beginning, when we first started, when I started working for transit, it was a prideful thing to wear the uniforms, you know, to be able to service. But things have kind of like gotten out of hand, and the culture and the narrative of what transportation and transit riders were supposed to be is kind of like fading out because of all of the disappropriations that are we deal with on a day-to-day basis in our workplace. And I really believe that we can bring that sense of pride back to the workplace and back to the city of Chicago for our customers if we just all just get along, for real.
Rodney King said, can we all just get along?
Oh, at this point, get along. Yeah.
Now, you have spoken at transit events all over the world. What kinds of things have you noticed happening in other countries that would be good models for America and Chicago?
Well, I was very honored to be invited to a workshop in Turkey, and I met a lot of union leaders over there. Their unions had only been in operations for 10 years. And the Hawkish union, which I was invited to come and do the workshop for, had 1 million members within a 10-month. So their organizing strategy over there was just phenomenal as far as that is concerned. And then when it came to the transit, it showed the vision and the perspective that we had initially in America when it came to educating the riders on how to board and exit the buses and the trains, and how to continue to educate the workers to hold that professional perspective when we're greeting the customers. and I just was so in awe. And I just think that for us here in America, once we train, we feel that everybody got it and then we let them go. But training is a constant thing. You know what I'm saying? And things that you hear over and over and over again becomes a common practice. And I think that in America, we have let down our guards in the continuous fight to keep educating and keep pushing the needle. And I think that that's what we need to, try to work on in the workplace, and then continue to let people know their values in the workplace. That's why we're having all of these rallies and all of these strikes and, management against employees. We've lost the humanistic values of what work ethics truly have been, and it's gotten out of hand. But I think that there is a resuscitative moment that we can utilize to bring us back to that again.
Well, I think that's a powerful point. And just as we prepare to close, what advice would you tell young people? Why should they consider working for and joining a union?
The union gives you leverage. It gives you a seat at the table, not individually, but collectively, to allow these employees to know what your worth is. And it gives you a voice at the table to change the narrative in how to gain these respects. Dr. Martin Luther King fought for us to have these seats at the table to negotiate your wages and your benefits. Hence, I don't want to get out, but we were talking about the Fight for 15, which I was very grateful to be a part of. And again, I want to give a shout out to Mayor Lightfoot and Alderman Sophia King and Erica for SEIU for allowing us to have 15 minimum wage in the city of Chicago for 2020-21, not waiting for 2025, because we understand that the economical systems in Chicago or across America, not just in Chicago, but everything is expensive now and everything is going up except people wages. And in order for people to live and to live in peace and not be so frustrated, we have to pay people their worth. And again, I just really want to thank you, Dr. Wilson and Reverend Jackson and the staff for really stepping in for us all the time when we need you. You're always here for transit. And we thank you all. And we just, bless Operation Push. We hope that more people understand you all's plight and join Operation Push, because you cannot make it without the funds. You just can't. And even with the trades, I'm speaking to you now, we need to start paying per capita or paying, helping push in a way. We help push them to push others. That's what we need to do. And I just really, again, I really thank you all for always looking our way and acknowledging us in the work that we do.
And we thank you for always supporting us, for pushing memberships throughout your network of people. We appreciate you, and we appreciate all that you do to make transit move smoother.
Thank you.
And more. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now we're gonna talk to a young lady that's been with Push across the years. She's not that old, but she's been with us forever. Miss Regina Thomas.
American Federation of Teachers, 1.7 million members strong around the country. We find ourselves in so many different aspects of what's going on in our communities. And so we are always fighting for all of those bills, because our members, our parents, our paraprofessionals, we are not just teachers, we are nurses. We have some judges, some public employees across the spectrum. And so we fight, our fight is to be supportive of organizations such as Rainbow Push in the community and fight toward. We are fighting right now on behalf of our Hispanic community to make sure all of their issues and concerns, our Asian community, make sure that the issues that they are facing that we are up on top of. And one of our priorities is to make sure that schools are safe for our teachers, our parents, our students, to make sure that there's adequate education, to look at what is facing the Black and brown students who do not have Wi-Fi in their communities, who do not necessarily have the necessary equipment to be online. And one of the points that we are real concerned about is all of the stress and the emotional impact that this pandemic has had on our communities, and particularly our communities of color.
We need to have a regular, at least once a month, call where you share with us the public policy initiatives that we should support. And as we are around the country, we need to know what are the top 3 educational policy issues on the national level, and then some things that we're looking at the state level and what states, so that we can get behind them. So if you could share with us, you said the president's stimulus package, what's in it for education?
Well, I mean, we're looking at the infrastructure of these schools, and labor as a whole. When you sort of build up an infrastructure, that is more jobs for communities, better schools. It enhances the environment, because then you go to new techniques and making sure that everything is adequate. And so again, it is the entire bill impacts us holistically in a whole. Again, more jobs, but more so we build more schools, more facilities in our communities that allow us to adequately teach our kids, more hospitals, more equipment that allow us to move forward in sort of that manner.
This is a time where we have to figure out where, as Reverend Jackson would always say, where's the common ground that we can provide the best education for the people that matter the most, our children, and how do we provide them with the safety and security they need. You know, our children are now almost a year or more behind in studies based on this pandemic, and whether you're remote, hybrid, or whatever, trying to have attendance in this environment has been difficult. So what kinds of things has AFT been recommending?
I think we recommended that all the teachers be placed up on the list for the vaccines, which in most states we want to thank the leadership for making sure that happens. We want to thank our president for making sure that everyone gets vaccinated. And then we want to make sure that the facilities are safe. And so the infrastructure that was bad pre-pandemic, you add pandemic on them, they are like, totally out of order. And so if there was a problem with an HVAC system pre-pandemic, and then put children in a social distant environment and there's still not good circulation, in lies a problem. If there were overcrowding classrooms prior to pandemic, and then you divide up classrooms now to make sure that you have the adequate spacing and the like, that means more teachers. And so those are our concerns. It is not that we have issues. It is that our concern is for our students. And so many of our facilities do lunch and stuff externally. And so we want to make sure that those companies and corporations that provide the lunch have adequate facilities, that they are in fact doing those things right prior to bringing in the stuff into our schools. We want to make sure that there is the necessary distances, whether it's putting up barriers or the like between classrooms. If there was asbestos in the schools prior to pandemic, asbestos is still in the schools. We want to make sure, one of the major concerns is how are these children eating? And so we are working with organizations outside, independent organizations, to make sure that our facilities are used, because we have massive facilities to make sure every child is fed. We're working with organizations to make sure that there are internets, that Wi-Fi is available to our children. And so So we're working in partnership with many of these organizations to make sure that the very infrastructure things that the Rainbow Coalition and our allied organizations are fighting for, we are fighting for. Yes, we're fighting to make sure that there is adequate space and vaccines for our teachers, but our major concern is that our teachers are in an environment that our students can learn, and that our students are in an environment that makes them be the people that they can be in the future.
I really appreciate you, Regina. You've been with us across the years, and you've always been supportive and informative. And you look like a school teacher, got the glasses on and everything.
I know. I think the point of words is that we at the American Federation of Teachers, it is our desire to partner with our organizations. We listen. We are very active. I always say, since I worked for Reverend Jackson and now work for Randi Weingarten, our national president, that Randi's schedule is the old Jesse Jackson schedule. She is everywhere, anywhere that she needs to be. She's currently on the West Coast, Oregon, California, Washington State, Alaska, and now in New Mexico, listening to the concerns of our teachers, listening to the concerns of our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers. And so, again, our nurses, our public employees. And so I welcome the opportunity to come, but I also say, in addition to calling us, that we want to make sure that our local labor union, CTU and the like, are also part of these conversations, because they have a better grasp of what's on the ground, though we have the major model. And so I would love to also, in addition, facilitate those conversations so that you guys are aware and not always listening to what the media cast is going on, but listen firsthand to our leadership as well as our membership.
And I really welcome that. As you know, we have satellite offices in Baltimore, Maryland, Washington, D.C., New York, Detroit, Michigan, San Francisco, and Atlanta. And so if we could at least connect locally, and of course, our national headquarters here in Chicago, if we can connect with both of your counterparts around the country, that would be helpful as well. Thank you so much, ladies, for your time. I know you're busy, and we look forward to talking soon.
Attention high school seniors and college freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. If you are in need of financial assistance, Push for Excellence offers a variety of scholarships for which you may be eligible to apply. Whether it's the Jesse Jackson Fellows Toyota Scholarship, the Cirillo McSween New York Life Scholarship, or the Oralee Sanders Scholarship, Push for Excellence strives to offer something for everyone. Here are just a few of our scholarship recipients.
Hello everyone viewing, my name is Chidi Osakwe.
Dominique Davis.
Julian Jones.
China Mazum.
Miles Chairman.
Jalen Clark.
Marcus Anderson.
Jaden Reed.
Kari Young. Ms. Megan Chu, and I'm a Cirillo McSween Scholar.
I want to take this opportunity to thank Reverend Jesse Jackson for all his support of my college education.
Thank you for all of Toyota for helping with Reverend Jackson with the scholarship as well.
I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to Reverend Jesse Jackson for helping to make this scholarship opportunity possible for me.
As appreciative as I was before, I'm even more grateful now, having received this scholarship.
Not only has it helped me out financially with paying for tuition, but it has also awarded me the opportunity to learn more about the Rainbow Push Coalition and their different initiatives in the African American community.
I'd like to say thank you to Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Rainbow Push Coalition for all the generosity and support that they've shown me throughout my undergraduate career and for the opportunity to pursue higher education.
For more information, please visit our website at www.pushexcel.org and click on the word scholarships. Thank you, and keep hope alive.
Push Excel's goal is to inspire students to strive for excellence in education in spite of personal, family, and community challenges that they might experience. How do we do this? By advocating for educational policies that guarantee equal funding for all students without regard to race or economic standing. By engaging parents, students, and teachers in pursuing high-quality education and striving for educational excellence at every level. And by forging partnerships with community-based and public sector stakeholders in education. Now, Push Excel is a national model program with the purpose of connecting principals, parents, popular personalities, and students in a bond, and to support students at every level on the educational ladder. Now, we want you to become a member of the Rainbow Push Coalition and Push Excel. Your annual membership can help us to change policies that impact students, colleges, and universities all around the country. So step up and sign up today. Membership is only $35, and if you're a student or a senior, $15. Just go to our website, rainbowpush.org, and push join to become a member, or push donate to support the Push Excel program. You can also text the word Push Excel, that's PUSHEXCEL, to 41444 on your cell phone, and you can give us any amount that you feel comfortable giving, or call us at 773-256-2775. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you. And remember to keep hope alive.
Reverend Jesse Jackson began this work in the late 1990s. He gathered with Silicon Valley leaders in the 90s to talk about this evolving reality of technology and the digital world.
We could bring to pass the vision of Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson Sr., and that is equality even in the tech industry, so that the bad hand that we had been dealt with can be replaced by a good hand of equality of opportunities.
That we should be focused on making sure that our advancements are structural, so that we're actually building new infrastructure, new policy, new ways of doing business that will survive.
Be values driven and don't compromise, and define for your life, this is how I prefer to be treated, this is how I will be treated, and really get with a company that aligns with your values. There's plenty of tech companies out there, and don't budge on that.
People who look like us, Black and brown Americans, to not just get online, but fully leverage this new tech economy and this new online economy that now drives the American economy.
What I would say to tech workers at this moment is, this is a moment of opportunity. If you're not applying for the promotion, if you're not applying for the loan now, don't wait. Get out there. Make these companies make good on their commitment to invest in the African American, Latinx, and other underrepresented minority communities.
These important conversations might not be possible because of your support and partnership. Our collaborative work of advancing economic justice and inclusion in the tech sector will continue.
Another year of excitement, another year of impact, and another year we get to share as we gather the family together to do something great.
Well, this is Bishop Tavis Grant, the National Field Director for the Rainbow Push Coalition. I want to thank you for joining us today. We've been talking to you for weeks about our national initiative as relates to fair housing. April is the anniversary of the Fair Housing Act. And many of you know that under fair housing, there was a philosophy and an ideology of model cities where you would take these properties and turn them into sustainable, affordable, livable communities. And since then, we've missed the mark. And yet through the work of Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson, we are back at it again. And so I hope that you would join us. The residents at Concordia Place Apartments and those who are on the south side of Chicago are seeing a tremendous opportunity in front of them in terms of charting a new course in the area of fair housing. And I want to thank Reverend Jesse Jackson for standing up and standing with and standing for these residents and making sure that their rights are protected and their future is bright. We've had several successes from opening up parks to enhancing security to joining HUD in a 100% inspection that includes pest control strategy, mold remediation, and now the development of a new common area community center that will be state-of-the-art in terms of meeting the needs and the objectives of providing a quality way of life in that corridor here in Chicago. We're doing it across the country. We're doing it in Atlanta. We're doing it in New York. We're doing it on the West Coast, and we need your help. And so the website, www.rainbowpush.org, or you can call us right now, 773-373-3366, Freedom on your dial. Or you can hit us on social, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and always know we're in the fight to win, and when we fight, we do win. Keep hope alive. Thank you.
Today, we want to give you an update on what is happening in Minneapolis and what's Minnesota like today. Many of us have just simply watched the Derek Chauvin trial, and we have a different kind of view of Minneapolis that is beyond reality. And so we want to bring to you what the faith community is doing, has been doing, and what the faith community sees as some of the challenges people who live in Minneapolis are facing, particularly people of African American culture. So you're going to hear from the Reverend McAfee, pastor of the Salem Baptist Church in Minneapolis, and the Reverend Dr. Curtis DeYoung, president of the Minnesota Council of Churches. They will share with you what the faith community is doing.
There is so much to be said about what's happening here that even for the most part transcends the trial, Jeanette. I would want your listeners to know that Minneapolis for African Americans is either number 1 or number 3 or 4, something like the worst place in the country for us to live. Really? Oh God, yeah. And this is the backdrop of what can birth a Derek Chauvin. You know, we're seen from the outside as this icon of diversity and everything else, and we're anything but. So from housing to education to incarceration, you name it, we're about at the bottom of the list. And so while the trial is certainly having an impact, the life of the average African American is in peril here. If I'm not mistaken, the median income don't transcend $36,000 a year. And so you mix the pandemic in with that, you mix the regularity of the Derek Chauvinist type attitude, along with now the new death of the young man, Deontay Wright. We are in peril from without and from within. And the tragedy of it, Jeanette, is much of this that's happening overshadows the shootings and the homicides that take place in our own community. We had 2 homicides Sunday and no mention in the media at all. You got this picture of Minneapolis that for those of us who live here, it's not an accurate picture because much of the media that is here don't take the time to find out what the reality is. And that's what's been problematic is, and it's not that it's not known, it will blow your mind. From voter suppression by the Democrats on down, the atrocities that we face here. So we're in peril. And whatever happens, I don't think many of us have a hope on a good outcome of this trial because we've seen it so many times. Who would have thought that that officer could have got off who killed Philando Castile? But he did.
Yeah.
That's what's happening, and that's how I feel.
Yeah. If I could just add, Reverend Jeanette, that what Reverend McAfee and I have known each other 30 years. We've been in this journey together a long time. And what he has just described is some of the worst racial disparities in the country. So meanwhile, while this is one of the worst places for Black people to live, it's one of the best places for white people to live statistically, as far as wealth and income and education. And it's also a very highly segregated place. So most white people have no daily interaction with Black people, have no lived experience or awareness of what Rev has just shared with us. And so the public nature of these killings invite white people to actually take a glimpse into their neighbors' community to see what's going on, but you don't see much interest. More, it's an embarrassment that this is happening here and a struggle to just get this done with and move on.
Both of you have been very active in fighting for social justice, fighting for change, fighting for changes in policing. Well, do you think Minneapolis is different than Chicago, different than New York, different than Detroit in terms of the police initiated violence, the culture of racism and hatred that seems to permeate America?
I think the portrayal of it from a national light is different. And the only thing what we're doing is shedding light on the commonality that it does have with the atrocities that's committed in other states. But I also think we have greater opportunity than some of those states do for change because of the way that it's set up. And we're hoping that they would use this time to serve as a model, one, to deal with violence throughout. I think the last time we talked last year, Jeanette, we talked about almost every urban city that's headed by African-American mayors and stuff, trying to deal with this thing called violence, the things that we do with each other, which is a bigger problem than the police problem. I think in Minneapolis, we have a better shot at putting together a working model that could perhaps be emulated across the country that could be beneficial.
Why do you think you have a better model than other cities?
One, we're smaller and not as many different entities. Like you take Chicago and Detroit, you got, like up here, you got 50 attitudes differences. In Chicago and Detroit, you probably got 5,000. And now to try to pull all of them together, in an expeditious time fashion, would take a lot of time. If you can take a small area like here that has, like I said, some of the worst disparities in the country, if you can make it work here, then you can then take it and put it someplace else without having to go through some of the, what I would consider the nonsense of growing pain. Mm-hmm. So we have a great opportunity to build something here. But, again, everything has its stressors and tensions, and we're trying to work through some of that. But I think the opportunity here is greater.
How are you guys going to handle this recent murder? What are the actions to stem the violence? Reverend Jackson, of course, has always talked about nonviolence and the power and strength of nonviolence. They're now gearing up for violence in your city and even in our city as a reaction to it.
We've got a team of people that we have out on the block to try to help stop the violence, if you will, especially the looting and stuff of things, again, that are essential for us. And so they were out last night, and we're praying that it grows. I think for me, Jeanette, one of the things that I would love to see, just as you see tanks and the National Guard in our community, or churches, you and your members ought to be out on the block. Mm-hmm. With them kids out there in the midst of that, I ain't gonna be praying on Zoom. We'll go out there on the block. We'll get between the people and the police so the people can see. And the church sometimes gets such a bad name. Well, what a great way to show who you are. Right. And get in between that stuff, make those prayers and do what you need to do to calm all that stuff down. So that's the direction we get ready to take.
Church on the block that's an interesting concept because it's easy to talk on Zoom. It's different to be out on the street and have service in the middle of the street.
That's right.
On the block.
Yeah.
So how are you able to organize these congregations that as a model for what we could be doing all around the country? I think the church has a major role today.
Well, you got, again, Curtis's group is there, but you also have what's called His Works United by Stair Step, which is a broader coalition of most African-American churches. Yeah. We've been working together for years. Right now, we're in the midst of COVID shots. We did COVID testing. We've gone from housing issues, grief trauma. Matter of fact, we got a book out that should be coming out now called Learn Self-Management in Dealing with Trauma from an African-American perspective, and realizing the amount of trauma that our people have gone through. So I think we got a good church model on both ends that could be emulated across country.
Yeah.
And that's headed up by Alfred Babington Johnson.
Yeah, and Reverend Babington Johnson has been leading this for years. I mean, this is deeply rooted in the community. He's a Howard grad who went to school with Stokely Carmichael and that crew, that era, and brought that sensibility here and that deep connection to the community, and that really is the most vibrant network of churches, Black churches mostly. We try to connect, but now that we have Black leadership in our ways of governing who we are, we get brought into and naturally connected. And that's one thing that hasn't happened in the past, is there hasn't been those sort of natural built-in sort of networks and connections that we're trying to build going forward.
So I want to take you guys up. I know the trial is in progress. You got work on the street, on the ground. In your closing thoughts, what would you like to see? What can churches that are watching that are not in Minnesota do? What can our faith community do to help and deal with the response? And then I would think from the white church, do we need to write a letter from Minneapolis, like Dr. King wrote from the Birmingham jail?
I do think that there needs to be some, that's a good idea, by the way, Rev. We maybe should reconvene on that. But there needs to be.
I want to do that.
I think what this latest killing shows us is that the issues are not just Minneapolis. This is a system-wide issue on policing. There's many, if you try to address policing, you've got so many municipalities that have their own police. So we need some national action. We need some state action. Number of bills sitting at our own state legislature that need to get passed, as well as the local work. So, you know, the national church could take a lead on trying to make policing center. And then I think we need to not miss what Rev has continued to say throughout our conversation, but says regularly here, is that there's an issue around violence right in communities. You know, there's violence in white communities too. It just doesn't get talked about. But we need to address some of those core issues, and the church needs to be at the center of addressing the kind of realities that are experienced in communities.
Get to closing thoughts, Reverend McAfee.
Well, I think one of the things that could help us nationally is the concept of one family at a time. That if each church, each community start focusing on rebuilding the family, just one family at a time, restoring family dinner, restoring family meetings, examine your family's strengths, weakness, who need help, not being judgmental, but helping get your own family whole. I think we can better our communities and our nation. That would be my final thought.
Amen.
I want to thank both of you for joining us. We're going to have a national faith leaders kind of roundtable during our convention. I certainly want you to talk about the role of the church in dealing with the inequities that result in housing and in our educational system and our access to health care, access to economic justice. And so hopefully you will be a part of that roundtable and help us come up with some solutions. We have a major fight, and I thank God that you are fighting in Minneapolis and all over Minnesota. I know you are not stationary. Thank you so much on behalf of Reverend Jackson and the Rainbow Push Coalition.
For 2021, we're excited to get more people engaged and involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. Now, if you're interested in public policy and you want to help change the policies that impact those who are incarcerated, you can do so. If you're interested in impacting public policies that benefit education and businesses with social economic solutions, you can do that as well. You can become a policymaker by becoming a member of Rainbow Push right now. Now, if you believe in the scholarships that we've given to thousands of students each year, you can help us out. We've awarded more than $10 million in scholarships year to date. Now, you can help young people achieve a higher education by becoming a member of Rainbow Push right now for the annual fee of only $35. And if you're a student or a senior, it's only $15. You can help us make a difference in the lives of millions. Now, if you watch us every week, or if you listen to us on the radio, or if you're viewing on social media, we need you to become a member. And how do you become a member? It's simple. Visit us at rainbowpush.org and press join. Maybe you'd like to support the work of PUSH. If so, it's really simple. You can do so by texting the word PUSH, that's P-U-S-H, to 41444 on your cell phone, and you can give any amount that you feel comfortable giving, or you can call us at 773-256-2775 or go to rainbowpush.org and push donate. So whenever you want to support, you can do it from anywhere. So keep pushing, because we're going to keep pushing for you and keep hope alive.
Dr. Kim, I went to jail with a group of 7 students, July 17, 1960, almost 60 years ago. We never stopped moving. I lost a few jail cells and death. We never stopped moving. I thought it was time to write some of it down so the older generation can learn how we did and what we did and how global it was. Whether speaking about Mandela in South Africa, India, Qatar, Gandhi in India, here at home. This book tells the story, so please get it and give it to your friends. Read it, let's argue about it, let's discuss it.
Yep, so the book is Keeping Hope Alive, Sermons and Speeches of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. It's quite a good collection. You know, we've got sermons and speeches from around the globe because you have made such a global impact, not just here in the U.S., but around the world.
Thank you for tuning in to our International Saturday morning broadcast. We need your support. Here are ways to give to Rainbow Push Coalition. Text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444 to support the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and Rainbow Push Coalition. When you shop, Amazon gives. Visit Amazon Smile and select PUSH for Excellence as your charitable organization by starting your shopping at smile.amazon.com.
Get involved with the movement.
Somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Join the movement.
If you're not a member, become a member.
I am somebody.
Fighting the most important battles for freedom and justice for all.
You made us change. Oh, trying to bring closer.
Join Rainbow Push.
But you're not pushing me away. Join the movement.